Everyone knows Doki Doki Literature Club. The title of the video itself might just be confusing outright to anyone who isn't really that tapped into my personal life and the trenches of Reddit visual novel discourse. I mean, there's tons of videos essentially dedicated to glazing every aspect about the game, so why would the game even need an in-defense of video? Well, it really doesn't. I'm just petty, and after years upon years of being slandered by friends for my passion for the game, and then subsequently looking on as endless strays got shot in its way by people who are much more versed in the genre, I decided, why the hell not? I'll make a defense video for what's probably the most well-known and praised visual novel in recent history. No, but seriously, if yapping in random Discord channels won't convince people, surely this will. So sit back and enjoy as I try to explain why this game is amazing and means so much to me specifically, as well as why I'd place it above Resident Evil 4 and The Last of Us in my all-timer list. Don't kill me for that. I used to be dumb. No, really. The extent of which I would not like to plaster in this video for the entire internet to study and critique, but just know that it was pretty bad. To be fair though, we're all dumb as children, aren't we? I don't remember exactly when I first played the game, or probably watched on YouTube to be honest, but from what I can find, it was at least 6 years ago. Ignoring the warning plastered in the first few seconds of the game, I found myself enamored by what it had to offer. But didn't we all? Especially if you were at a younger age like me, the game would easily catch you. What about now, 6 years later, with a much more developed brain that isn't so easily swayed by dark plot twists or flashy movements? Well, yeah, it does hold up. Really well in my opinion. In particular, I think that everything having to do with Sayori before you gently open her door is still great even under a critical lens. Sayori has 2 poems that she writes in the game, not counting, you know. At a first glance, her first poem seems sort of bad. It's not really taken seriously in the game itself, but on a deeper look, it's a super effective way of foreshadowing how she's feeling, day by day. She describes the way that sunshine helps her get out of the bed in the morning, struggling to even make it out in the first place, but having something to push her onwards helps tremendously. Maybe I would have viewed this as a pretty simplistic poem, and to a certain extent, even with my knowledge now, it kind of is, but I appreciate it for what it is regardless. Especially the last line, I want breakfast. A whimsical line that can tell an entire story rounding out what it's trying to tell the reader. Her next poem, Bottles, is the much more obvious indication that something is wrong with her. It's a long one, a spiel about her trying to make her friends happy, trying to search for happy memories and eventually failing. The memories are too old to truly do anything anymore. After all, when was the last time she was even truly happy? Depression is a hard and heavy topic to bring up in any media, let alone one that truly dives into the consequences of it, a possible end result for someone truly suffering, one that seriously has to portray it in a sensitive manner, a responsibility that a work has to take on when it portrays suicide. I think Doki Doki does a good job at it. I find the fact that Sayori still goes through with it no matter what the player chooses to be really indicative of this. You cannot solve anyone's problems in a day, and you might not even be able to solve them at all. Sayori hasn't been dealing with this for just the span of the game, but before the story even began. Even if you try your absolute best, there's no guarantee that you can just pull someone from their negative emotions. Even if you do, they might fall back into it over and over and over again, and you might even lose them along the way. I don't think the game approaches this poorly at all. My own experiences aren't the same as everyone else's on the planet, but at the very least, on probably the most important and by far heaviest topic that the game brings up, and what made it so famous in the first place, the game is not slacking in the slightest.
You ready?
Act 1 isn't the only part of the game that holds up, as even though the later acts do rely more on the novelty of the horror aspects, and even file manipulation and a light ARG later on, the quality of the game doesn't dip at all. Now that might be confusing since this part of the game is the main draw, but it could be argued that it relies a lot on the first experience and shock factor. At a first glance, it may seem like the game doesn't lend itself to replay value and may not have a lot to offer outside of that first experience. Oh, and a quick little side note, but I have 30 hours logged on Doki Doki Literature Club Plus on my Switch. Yes, it does rely on shock factor for a first playthrough, but that's only for the first playthrough. It doesn't suddenly become this much worse game afterwards, and that's because it, in and of itself, is a well-written portion of the game. As I've already clarified, Act 1 is good, but most of that, at least in a writing sense, is from Sayori, her depression, and her suicide. The other aspects of the game, mainly Yuri, Natsuki, and Monica as characters, really isn't striving to be better than an average Basojo game, which isn't inherently bad on its own, but it just doesn't seem to stack up to the depth given earlier on. Act 2 takes the caricatures that we've come to know and rips off their masks, dialed to 11. The juxtaposition of the kind, soft-spoken Yuri, or erratic yet endearing personality of Natsuki, to what they become later on is especially effective. Yuri is the more explicitly obvious example, with her reserved nature essentially completely disappearing as she just straight up becomes a yandere. I would say it's not entirely out of nowhere though, since it does fit with what we've been shown of her so far. Obviously, Monica dialed her up to 11, but her overwhelmingly selfish nature is a natural evolution. She was really, maybe a little bit overly glad that the MC was paying attention to her if you focused on her in the poem section of the original game. But it gets way out of hand here. It exemplifies her insecurities and even how unhealthy they can be at times, but with no way to regulate herself like she normally would, it just spirals. Natsuki is actually sort of more reserved. She's a bit more cruel, but to be honest, she essentially just becomes a lot more worried for Yuri because of how she's acting. On top of that, we come to learn that her home situation isn't really the best, which contextualizes why she loves manga so much. Using the medium as escapism should tell you how much it means to her, and also why she gets so defensive about it. When her poem gets belittled by Yuri, it also explains why she flips her lid. That writing being so flubby and bubbly is a way to distract from the fact that her life really isn't flubbly or bubbly at all. Who wants to have something they put so much heart into ragged on like that? It feels realistic for them given the circumstances, and I appreciate that they still have some depth instead of literally just turning into mindless caricatures, even if that's what Monica sees them as at this point. Monica, too, is literally complete nothing character before Act 2, and even then it's obviously deliberate that she gets left out. She hates it, being locked out, and even causing everything isn't enough until the very end. But I like that direction for her character, especially the fact that she's left out of everything. She can't be romanced like the other girls, you really do barely see her have much of a focus in the game, and she gets hoed by the script endless times. Her bordering on going insane, feeling like it's only you and her that are truly real people, and throwing everything else away for a chance at grabbing that is a good setup. Even as the main draw for the game at first, I don't feel like the horror or meta aspects entirely carry it from start to finish. It's still able to hold its own despite the fact that they are admittedly doing a lot of work, but they're toyed around with in ways that still make it feel substantial. There is a phenomenon in this world that almost anyone who has an appreciation for art can understand. The feeling after you finish something so amazing that you can literally feel a gaping hole in your heart. You're so glad to have found something to impact you so much, but at the same time, it makes you miserable that you can't just keep going. You still want more. That hunger still exists, and it's almost painful. The first thing I can remember making me feel this way is the romance anime Toradora. I won't go in depth on the show right now, but that feeling can be dubbed as Post-Toradora Depression. But not many things have made me feel that over the years. Doki Doki also never made me feel that, which may be surprising considering how important I consider this game to me, but it sort of acted as a precursor to that feeling in the first place. People end up the way they are because of a multitude of different things. The environment they grow up in, the personality that they just so happen to be born with, or maybe even carved on their own, and the different things that they've experienced along the way that have shaped them, whether they realize it or not. Art is probably the most important thing on this planet. Well, besides like oxygen, but it's a pretty damn close second. Some pieces of art just change who you are. They tickle your brain in just the right way and can literally change the trajectory of your life. For me, that piece of art is Doki Doki. Maybe it was just the fact that it was a visual novel. I hadn't really interacted with Japanese media pretty much at all, and now it's like 80% of what I do interact with. At the same time, maybe it was Sayori's suicide and mental health issues and how that topic being introduced to me at that time, considering what I've had to see other people go through, was the thing that really got to me and started to change the way that I approach others and really started to be more considerate. Maybe it was finally latching onto a character like I did with Monica that finally gave me a character of my own and footing to stand on when it came to other people I knew and some of their favorite characters. Maybe it was all the times me and my friends attempted to do a run of the game where we voiced each character, and those being some of my favorite memories with them. Maybe it was all of it. Regardless, I know for a fact that this game is the reason why I made the choices that led to me even making this video in the first place. Art that really, truly impacts you deserves the flowers you give it no matter what anyone else has to say about it. Maybe even just watching this video itself could lead someone down a path that they were never expecting in the same way Doki Doki did for me. No matter how you look at it though, for me, Doki Doki is the work that changed my life forever.
So, you know how I've been like practicing piano and stuff, and not really any good at it yet, like at all. But I wrote you a song, and I was kind of hoping that I could show it to you because I worked really, really hard on it. So, yeah.
Doki Doki Literature Club is famous. It doesn't really need to be defended in a traditional sense, but for a game so important to me, spelling out exactly why I think it is a good game and doesn't lean on its gimmicks is something I just wanted to do. It put me on the path that I'm on today, and it's probably led to me making so much stuff in the first place. So, I'll forever be thankful that I read it. I'm not gonna lie, I actually had a completely different video planned for March. But the script got really long and I wanted to do something, so I just went with this instead. I mean, I had the thumbnail ready for a while, but you know. Well, anyways, I'm gonna keep this one short since it seems like viewership dies down around this time, but I was really not expecting Molester Man to do insane numbers, but it motivated me to keep going. But yeah. Anyways, I hope you'll tune in for the next one. It might be something that people have mentioned in the comments before.